Joining me now is author and political commentator Shamika Michelle.
Shamika Michelle.
Shamika Michelle.
Shamika Michelle.
When God looked at man, he said it's not good for man to be alone. He gave him a woman. He didn't give him a village. He didn't give him the community. He said, be fruitful and multiply to this man and this woman. So it's supposed to be God, husband, wife.
If you always do what you've always done, you will always get what you've always done.
And happy Monday. You are joining Shaking My Head with Shamika Michelle, and I am your host, Shamika Michelle. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Listen, ladies, I have a question for you. And let's be real. Who comes first in your life? Your pastor, your husband, or your boss? And if your answer is wrong, or if you answer wrong, it could explain why so many women are out of order. That's what we're going to be discussing today. Ladies, some of you are just out of order. Who comes first? Your husband, your pastor, or your boss? And we know that sometimes the order is wrong. If all three, your pastor, your husband, your boss, called you at the same time, who are you answering first? Ladies, let's see. Hop in the chat. I'm curious because we know that sometimes you answer wrong. 757. Thank you. 757 Galvatron. I'm a coon. Well, if I'm a coon, sir, you're a weak, wimp, limp dick nigga. You know how I know? Because all I'm up here doing is actually doing what I'm supposed to do as an older woman, teaching the younger women how to be good wives and mothers. So if that makes me a coon, then I'm going to coon all day long, but you're going to be a limp, weak bitch. Okay? Because what you should be doing is figuring out how to spread the message. Because unlike the little wig wearing, pussy smelling women that you push around, I'm not just twerking on the gram, looking for men to take care of me, searching for materialism. I'm actually doing good work. So if that makes me a coon, somebody make me a coon t-shirt. I'll wear it. I'll wear it proudly. A coon t-shirt and a coon hat for Mr. 757 Galvatron, who's so manly he can't even use his real name. Hello, Odyssey. Alicia, hello. Stacy, hello. Jay Hunter, thank you for the super chat. Hi, Sharisa. Hello, Red Lipstick. I keep telling these people I am the clapback conservative. They roll up so many times, and I don't know why it is such a problem with Black people that they just want all Black people to be beholden to the Democrat Party. They want us to constantly just continue to be victims, constantly whine about how the white man has his foot on our necks. We can't do anything. Anytime we go to jail, it's the white man's fault. Anytime a woman has a baby out of wedlock and she's struggling, it's the white man's fault. Anytime they fail in school, it's the white man's fault. But on the flip side, if you feel like you can do all things, especially through Christ who strengthens you, then you're a coon and they have a problem with it. And they are the first ones to hop in the chat and let you know. 757 Galvatron, if you went and got a real job, instead of you worrying about someone being a coon, you would actually be doing something for yourself. And then you wouldn't have to be worried about white people or them being white supremacists and keeping you and your little bank account in the negative. You could actually be doing something with life. Hi, Reels Twin. Hi, Khalees. Hi, Miguel. Hi, Jimmy. Thank y'all for being here today. Ladies, drop it in the chat. Who comes first? Your husband, your pastor, or your boss? And I was looking at a video, and they were actually going back and forth. It was a small short, so I didn't feel the need to actually play it. But they were going back and forth trying to figure out who is actually more important. Who should the woman actually answer to first? And one of the things that bothers me about the church today is that it's full of women. And these women aren't all the time single. A lot of times, these are churches full of married women whose husbands stay home. And as someone who has been in church my entire life, I've actually seen this my entire life. And I have seen instances where that woman actually puts her pastor before her husband. If the pastor says, I need you to give an extra $50, this woman is not checking with her husband. She's not having a meeting with the husband to say, do we have this extra $50? She's just doing what she wants to do. She never checks with her husband. Do you have a problem with me being at church for 2 services on Sunday? Monday night prayer meeting, Tuesday night choir rehearsal, Wednesday night Bible study. It's just the church, the church, the church. But in all actuality, who should come first? Who should be the spiritual authority that outrank the marriage? You know, that there shouldn't be any. But why do we allow that so often, ladies? And then we wonder why our homes are upside down. Many times it's because we are out of order. Many times because we are letting the pastor, and we're going to get to the boss, we're letting the pastor from his church office run your home. Now, I've seen women make excuses for this. There are women who will say, well, my husband isn't saved, or my husband isn't on the same spiritual level as I am. Therefore, when it comes to matters of my home, I'm going to go to my pastor. Because you look at your pastor above your husband. When the scripture says the husband can be saved by the actions of the woman. If you actually treat your husband the way he's supposed to be treated, you could very well pull him in. Instead, you ostracize him Sunday after Sunday, week after week, month after month, year after year, but then you're shocked when things go left. Why is this so? I want to see what y'all are saying in the chat. Ladies, if all three, your pastor, your husband, and your boss, called you at the same time, who are you answering first? I said, thank you, Red Lipstick, for the super chat. I'm a preacher's kid and I've seen it all. Thank you, Stacy, for joining us. Hi, Grams, Coogs. Stacy Rollins says, same. Bunch of testosterone-laden, busybody women. I heard people with no profile pic. Oh, yes, Jay. And thank you again for this other super chat. Jimmy says the head of women is the man. Absolutely. So why do you think we allow the pastor in error to control our homes, ladies? What is it that allows us to let the pastor do that? You know how many times I hear women, and I think that there is the same problem in the church when it comes to society and education. Because I hear so many women saying, we are the most educated, and they look down their nose at men who maybe don't have the same level of education. It doesn't matter to them if they are a successful plumber or electrician. If the woman is an attorney, typically she will look down her nose at the mechanic, even if he's doing well for himself. There's this idea that he's not on her level. And so many times when it comes to the church, in error, women do their husbands the same way. Now, I'm not talking about a man you're just meeting, a man that you're trying to make sure that you all are not unequally yoked. I'm talking about a man that you have already married, that you should have already checked the boxes with when it came to his relationship with God. But if you don't feel like he's where you are spiritually, you knock him down a few levels and put the pastor in that place. Then your home is unhappy. Your children are unruly. Finances in disarray. And you don't understand why. It's because you're in error and you have not recognized that Christ is the head of the church. The man is the head of the family, as the head of the woman. God, husband, wife, children. But somehow you've put the pastor in that place. And I'm here to tell you, you're out of order. Humans, by nature, are territorial. Then when you look at the fact that here is a man, your husband, providing for you, making sure that you eat, putting a roof over your head, helping you raise children, and he has no say over the pastor, ladies, that's error. You're out of order. Stimulated students, read Genesis. There was no man to water the ground. There's levels to that. This isn't all on women. A lot of it is because of their ego and pride, but it all starts with the man. It does start with the man. When you think of the sense of who should be in charge and who steps out of place, typically, and don't put his foot down. If we go back to Genesis, we watched Adam, as they told us last week, and I believe it was Chris, or no, maybe it was Dave, who said Adam watched Eve eat of the fruit that she was not supposed to eat. So many times men do step out of place or sit and watch and not say anything. But for me, that does not take the blame off the woman who should know better. And I'm certainly not one of these people who refuse to tell a woman when she's out of order. Because yes, there are people who just don't know, but more often than not, there are the women, I think it was Red Lipstick or someone that said, yeah, preacher's kid, but it was Stacy. A bunch of testosterone-laden, busybody women is what we have so many times. Refusing to be humble and be in a woman's place. Just outright refusing. Because the husband can't tell me what to do. We hear it so much. You ain't my daddy. You can't tell me what to do. It never comes from a place of, or it rarely comes from a place of, I'm not sure. I don't know how to walk through this. What do we do? Many times it comes from, you ain't my husband. I mean, you ain't my daddy. You can't tell me what to do. And stimulated students, I have to agree that men have allowed this to happen. And when it comes to having to give an account, God is going to the man first. Which is why I'm saying, women, don't make it hard. Don't make it more difficult. Know your place and have no problem being in that place. Playing the role you were designed for. Ladies, if you work outside of the home, who comes first? Your husband or your boss? Sometimes that one is a little stickier. Are women loyal to their jobs or their boss because that's who pays them, even at the cost of their home? Men see this ranking as a test of respect. If the husband isn't first, what does that say? Men, drop how you feel in the chat. Stacy says disrespect of husband, bowing to culture that preaches that women are not to be under men. And that's exactly where we are nowadays. Miguel, churchianity pushes the matriarchy because that's who mainly attends. And in this matriarchal society, they're the money makers, and that's who the church houses go after. Somebody has to keep the pastor from having to work a regular 9 to 5, right? Typically, it's the women. You're right, Miguel. The church houses are full of women. Who comes first, ladies? Sharisa said Eve put the serpent over her man. Could that be why some women put preacher or boss before husband? She certainly put the serpent before what God had already told her. And many times when you toss the word out, when you toss out what God has already said to you, ladies, you willingly open the door for confusion, for havoc, and for unhappy homes. I know there's this saying, happy wife, happy life. So what is it when it's an out of order wife? What happens when the wife is just out of order? Out of order wife, out of order life? Has to. And I think that we have become so materialistic that we do a lot of times chase after what it is the boss has said, because we have 3, 4 cars in the driveway. We have 2 income households. There is no respect of the husband unless he's completely holding it down financially many times. Fellas, what would you do if your wife consistently put her pastor or boss before you? I asked the ladies to drop in the chat who's in charge, who comes first in their lives. But fellas, I want you to put in the chat how you would feel if that woman constantly put her pastor or her boss before you. Jimmy says, and if they will learn anything, let them ask their husbands at home, for it is a shame for women to speak in the church. Bible verse. Absolutely. So it's clear, if you are a believing or a Bible believing woman, it's clear that the pastor should not come before your husband. It's clear that he's there to be a teacher. He's there to lead his congregation. But if there's something you don't understand, or there's something that comes to your home, you are supposed to be able to look to your husband. Stimulated student says, send her on her merry way. Don't tolerate disrespect. That's idolatry. And one of the things that I'm very concerned about is us just getting back to some traditional families so that we can, or traditional values so that we can build families and build society again. And without somebody taking the roles that the Bible has outlined for us, we're going to be missing things. I look at some of the pictures ladies put online. This is what I cooked today. And I'm thinking clearly, nobody's teaching these women how to cook. Nobody's teaching them how to be wives and mothers as Titus has instructed older women to do. Khalees says that's a hot take. Putting your job over your husband is idolatry. That was a good hot take. Stimulated students. Good hot take. Daryl Lloyd says full of women and too many weak men. Absolutely. Red lipstick. Women are more loyal to their careers or their jobs. And let me say, that could be a very difficult thing to navigate, especially without God in the home. Because let's just say, women, your income is necessary to pay the mortgage or the rent. Let's say you have a man who's so territorial that there's animosity between your job and him. How do you navigate that space? Do you not work? Or do you figure out a way to make sure your husband knows his place and that you all are working together for the same goals? This was something Dave Shannon spoke on last week. How people are coming together in marriage, but there are no goals that they're working towards. And I can't remember if it was stimulated students that said it's very helpful if the husband who has the vision also lets the wife know what the vision is so that they can know what they're working towards. When you are a couple, when you are husband and wife, it's great for both people to know what the vision is so you know what you're working towards. Therefore, if that woman is in a situation where she is working to help pay the bills to make things easier for the family, that's understood, and there's a goal, there's a vision, and they're working together. And therefore, there's some respect. Thank you, Jay, for the super chat. Miguel says he has a better one for the woman. Who comes first, the kids or the husband? We see so many times where women like to ask this question of men: who comes first, me or your mother or your daughter? One of the things that really irritates me, and I see a lot, is women calling their sons kings and completely ignoring the father that helped you get those kings. I saw a woman who was in a relationship with the man refer to her son as kings. The man she was in a relationship, who was the father of at least one of those kings, was just her boyfriend. So who comes first, ladies? The kids or the husband? Remember the order. And remember, when something is out of order, it's not working properly. If you go to a restroom and there's a sign that says out of order, you know that that restroom isn't working properly. And you know that typically, if you use that restroom that's out of order, there will be some negative repercussions. Maybe the toilet will overflow. Maybe you'll turn on the sink and the water won't stop running. But so many times we will go day after day after day in our relationships out of order. And then wonder why it's not working properly. Why is my husband upset? Why is my wife crying all the time? Why are my children failing in school? Why are my children getting in trouble? Because you're going through life out of order. And until we fix those situations, things will not get better. Jay says, I would send her on her way. As men, we must learn to replace, never chase, unless there's sense. No boss or so-called religious boss comes before me. My wife knows better. That's what Miguel said. Hey, Katie, thank you for joining us. Katie says, I had all 3 of my children on a weekly chore list, like helping me in the kitchen, teaching them to cook, other chores like cleaning the house, doing laundry, and the chores rotated weekly. You have to teach them. My youngest daughter, where all 3 of my kids can get in the kitchen and do something so they don't starve. And some are better than others. But my youngest daughter, excellent baker. Excellent baker. And although all of my children have college degrees, they're not running around thinking that they're better simply because they have a college degree. Nor will they be going into marriages feeling like they're better if their husband doesn't. Or feeling like they don't have to cook a meal. And they'll be able to do so, not just, oodles and noodles. Some of y'all are cutting up oodles and noodles and hot dogs and thinking that's a meal. Now, it's one thing if you are poor, the economy has been better. I'm not talking about people who are just doing the best that they can. I'm talking about the Cardi B's. I don't cook, I don't clean, but let me tell you how I got that ring. And we wonder why her marriage is in turmoil, out of order. Khalees, it's easy to get a new job. It's not easy to get a new husband. Stimulated student says, yep, that was me. LOL. Gotta put your woman to work. I thought it was you. And that was just a good point. You let that woman know the vision and she knows what she's working with. Write the vision and make it plain. And then when she forgets at times, or even if the man forgets, they have something to look back on, a guide. Sister J, know ye not that the friendship of the world is enmity with God? Whosoever therefore would be a friend of the world is the enemy of God. Khalees Rael, putting your husband first is putting your children first. Absolutely. Graham said husband. When it comes to who's first. Katie said never called my son king. I told them they were hard-headed. Odyssey, thank you for the $5 super chat. I really, really appreciate it. Satan wants you out of order, ladies. Look at what it produces. It creates extras for TV. It produces death and destruction. It produces death and destruction. And I don't understand why we can look around and we can look at society. Now, listen, if you're 20, this may be all you know. But if you are up in age, you can remember when things looked a lot different than they look now. So we can see and we have clear evidence of what a matriarchal culture has done to society. When are we going to about face? When are we going to decide we want to be in order and we want things to be working properly and running smoothly instead of trying to go day by day out of order? And in all actuality, men should not have to fuss and fight with you, woman, that you chose this man, but yet you don't feel like he has the ability to lead you. Why did you get with him? Why did you say yes when he found you? Just to disrespect him? Just to belittle him and be condescending? Just to continuously let him know he's not on your level? You said yes. Unless he held a gun to your head, you did it willingly. So why do you continue to be in these situations? Miguel says, regardless if the wife makes more money, if the husband is putting forth an effort to work and doing things around the house and for the family, that he's still in charge. And ooh, Miguel, women do not want to hear that. You know how many women make more than the man, and because of that feel like she's in charge? He can't tell me what to do. Out of order. Katie says, I always had dinner ready for my husband when he got home from work. And so many of us listened to Babyface when he said he's going to cook dinner when he get home from work and then run her bath water. I was thinking, well, what has she been doing all day? Soon as I get home from work. And he paying the bills. And he's a faithful lover. Well, what does she do, Babyface? I wish we could get you in the chat. Because you wrote some unrealistic love songs, starting with that one. I mean, this woman did nothing. That's why you have women thinking that all they have to do is show up with a vagina. I'm a woman. That's it. Help me. What's that? Help you with what? Out of order. I don't cook. I don't clean. But let me tell you how I got that ring. With something that as you get older may not even work the same. Cardi B. Sister J says this is easy math. It is. Obviously, it's up to us men to make the decision Adam could not make. He fell for Eve and we suffer. If we fall for today's women, we are making the same decision Adam made. The same decision to fall behind a woman and let her tell you what to do. Especially when you know it's wrong. You already had clear instructions. Men, you have to make the decision Adam couldn't make. Women, don't make it hard. Especially when you've already said, I do. So many of you say, I do, and then I don't think so, I don't know. And you're out of order. That's just what it is. I've told the story that when I first started working, or like early on in my days of working on Fearless with Jason Whitlock, TJ Moe, who is the director of the show, asked me, so if you remarry and your husband says he doesn't want you working on the show, what would happen? My answer was, I quit. I would quit. That's what would happen. I think that was a little test. Like TJ knew that should have been the answer. I think he was testing me to make sure I was a good fit. I don't know. Because I know he already knew that would be the answer. Lotus Flower, thank you for being here. She said, hey, Meek and the Head Shaker. She was late. Graham Coog says, my husband was king. My son, prince. Duh, for sure. Stacy said, perhaps some pastors need to be preaching that correct order. Instead, weak pastors afraid to offend. They're afraid to offend, and they're afraid to lose some tithes and offering. This to me is the same, is why they won't stand up and teach anything that they know they should be teaching. Afraid to offend. Stacy, you're absolutely right. They don't want to make their bread and butter upset. They know where the money's coming from. I remember, and this is when I was married, I remember we were in Era sitting under a female pastor. That's a whole nother show. Not even getting into that. But we were sitting under a female pastor. And I remember her, she went to my husband saying that she needed, I don't know, the church needed money for something. And she got upset when he said, well, let me discuss it with my wife to see what we can do. Because we have to remember the scripture says that the wife submits to the husband, but the scripture goes on in Ephesians right after that to say they submit one to another. So this female pastor got upset when he wanted to come and have a conversation with me. But that goes back to what Dave and Stimulated Student was saying. You got to have a vision. And when there's a vision, a goal, both people know what you're working towards. You ain't getting ready to take no money out of our account just because this female pastor said she needed something and she didn't show you any proof. This isn't something that the church is involved in. Again, I said that's a whole nother story. We'll cover that one day. Thank you for the super chat. Take it back to Adam and Eve. She was deceived, no doubt. Got them both kicked from putting things in her mouth. Daryl says separate bank accounts for Christian couples is out of order too. And you know what's so funny, Daryl, that you say that? And I say all the time, when I was in church, so many Christian women, I was a stay-at-home wife and mom. I couldn't stay at home. I could not have my husband in control of the finance. I couldn't do it. These same women that would say he's not on my level spiritually. Just out of order, put you some money to the side. Now, in hindsight, I mean, you know, I did wish I had a little money to the side, I will say, but I'm glad I didn't, because I love to say I put all my eggs in one basket, didn't have a plan B because I believed in plan A. Sharisa said, maybe she put Babyface over her pastor and boss. I'm just saying. She must have. Babyface must have been in charge, because there was some reason he was saying all of this. Alicia says, coming from a generation where most of my friends grew up in single mother headed homes, we were not taught proper respect for man as the head of the house. Our examples came from TV. Absolutely. Lotus Flowers. Some women want the wedding, but not the responsibilities of being a wife. Talk about it. They want the wedding, but not the responsibility of being a wife. And they're living in some sort of fantasy land that, you know, he will just provide Birkin bags, Gucci, Prada. He leaves, you go get your hair and nails done every day, sit around and sip wine with your friends. There's no idea. Go and read Proverbs 31. They have no idea of what it takes to actually be a wife or run a household from that wifely standpoint. All they're looking for is the wedding, the princess treatment that women receive on that day. That's all they're looking for. Looking forward to the wedding and looking forward to being out of order after that. As soon as they walk down the aisle, the sign flips, out of order. Soon as the wedding is over, the sign flips. Yes, Katie, it doesn't seem wedding vows are taken seriously anymore. Miguel says you hear that all the time, and you also hear that my spouse doesn't know how much is in my personal account. And going back to what Alicia said with TV, especially now, it's so out of order. If anybody saw Why Did I Get Married, and I think Tyler Perry can just truly at most times be a menace to society. If you think back to Why Did I Get Married, remember when the character that Tyler Perry played in that movie kept asking his wife for another baby, and she was like, no, it's not the time. But then come to find out, she had her tubes tied after that first one, and she was so busy with work, and he was begging for time and attention. Like, we see these types of examples all the time, but clearly if we look at it with the right eye, we can see every last one of those couples were out of order. Some of our favorite movies, Waiting to Exhale, out of order. The fact that Bernadine could keep count of how many times her and her husband had sex. Well, she said he was keeping count. But it was out of order. Just bossy and condescending and belittling to these men. Now, and I'm talking about the men trying. Not y'all that have checked out willingly and want to remain checked out. I'm not talking about these men. I'm talking about the men that get up every day to stand as men, having to face a society that wants to effeminize them at every turn. A society that wants to demonize men at every turn, every time you turn around. Everything is toxic masculinity. He pushes his son to be better in a sport. Oh, that's toxic masculinity. He tries to tell his wife, you know, I'd prefer you have this type of car, the safety, the safety is better. Oh, that's toxic masculinity. I'm talking about those men. They should not have to go out and deal with what they deal with in society and come home and be belittled. There's a big sign outside that says out of order. And then when they get to their front door, it's a sign that says out of order there as well. That shouldn't be the case. And for you Bible believers, go read your Bibles. Read Ephesians. I think it's 5. I'm calling this off the top of my head. I think it's Ephesians 5. Had to click over and say Ephesians 5. That's a good place to understand what your marriage is supposed to look like and the roles that's supposed to be played. And go look then to see the roles of an elder in the church. And then we know a boss should not override any of those, especially not your husband. And again, Khalees said, if you put your husband first, you are putting the child first. You're definitely thinking about the child. Hi, Thomas. Thanks for joining us. Andrew said, Babyface, get you ladies coaxed to relax. There is so much on their mind all the time. In marriage, supposed to be 3, Christ, husband, wife, here and in heaven. To my baby listening to me, I can hear it down here. It's like 30 seconds out. Now she just heard that instruction. Thank you so much. It was echoing, my darling. Daryl says, are there any Black shows where the couples are in order? And Katie is saying The Cosby Show. And what happened to our good shows? Maybe I don't watch TV as much, but what happened to all of our good examples? Or halfway decent examples? Because in my opinion, Florida put that little white Jesus on the wall above James many a times in Good Times. James came across domineering, but Florida would oftentimes sit that white Jesus on that plate on that wall or that picture on the wall on James so many times. But what happened to our good examples? We went from Good Times, they were married. Family Matters, they were married. Did you say? Yeah, you said Black shows. Family Matters, they were married. And then we went from expecting married couples to just being okay with them shacking up. It's like Martin replaced The Cosby Show right in front of our eyes. Then we had Living Single. Right, I mean the switch right in front of our eyes. We even have shows now called The Real Housewives, and typically many of them are not married. Basketball Wives, unmarried. That is one thing that I can really appreciate about Esther Rolle. She refused to do Good Times without a husband. Now, actors and actresses have no standards. They don't even care what they're putting out to the community. Lotus says Tyler Perry happened. Exactly. Current shows of any color. Good Luck Charlie. And I don't even think that comes on anymore. That's So Raven had 2 parents, I know. And those shows I think are long gone. I don't know. Anybody with children? No. Melina said Good Times. Yes. Graham said Get Out of My Head. Yeah. Alicia says the last one she saw was My Wife and Kids. Thomas said Thelma was so sassy, and Walona was Penny's adopted mother on Hood Times. Oh, Sharisa said everybody hates Chris. Miguel, Bernie Mac was a good uncle father. Thelma was sassy and she ended up getting married. We got to start calling these things and people out, y'all. And stop accepting being out of order. If when you go in the restroom and that stall says out of order, you typically say, no, never mind, and you end up going in the other stall, that needs to happen when we see people or relationships, couples, things out of order. Never mind. want to be right so bad, ladies, that you want to be right and in order. Because right now, things are looking very grim. The order you put men in says everything about who you are, what you value, and why relationships work or don't work for you. This is something to ask yourself, ladies. Sharisa says Thelma was only sassy to her, but now they're going back and forth on good times. But guess what? It's 301. Ask yourself, ladies, how do you put the men in your lives in order? And think about how this affects your relationships. Are you in order or are you out of order? And when things are out of order, they don't work properly. Many times we don't even want to go around a bathroom that's out of order. It's not even that it's not working properly. It smells. It smells. And that's how some of these relationships are. It's smelling, stanking up the whole joint, just stanking up society because you refuse to be in order. And I'm telling you, when I see it, it just makes me shake my head. So I'll be back tomorrow for something else that has the same effect. I want to thank you, head shakers, for joining me today. Go out and point somebody out that's out of order. Help them fix it. Fix the chain in the toilet so that it can flush and work properly. Do whatever you have to do so that we can all be in order. I'll see y'all back here tomorrow, same place, same time. Shaking our heads. I love y'all.